Rogue Ones. This is a special edition of the Rogue Ones podcast. We are debuting a brand new recurring series called Just a Tip with Mike Thompson. Mike Thompson is my husband. Say hello.
Hello.
This recurring series will happen from our living room and Rogue headquarters lobby. And we will discuss different elements of the Rogue lifestyle, or kind of self-employment, and also regular employment, but different things that we've been through that we think you might benefit from. So please enjoy this very first Just a Tip with Mike Thompson, where we talk about identity in your work. Here we go. Hello, everybody. I have two special guests with me today. One is
chewing on a knife.
One is chewing on a knife. That's Mildred. That's our dog. And the other is my husband and best friend and very wise man, Michael Thompson. And we are starting a new recurring segment that will be a branch off of the Rogue Ones podcast. It's called Just a Tip with Mike.
It's me.
You got to make sure you're close to the...
Am I close enough now?
Sure. So the point of this here thing is that we understand that there's a lot of, frustration and weirdness with the Rogue lifestyle, which, let's just get this out on the table. It's like self-employment, or it's doing what you really like to be doing, even if that is employment. And Mike has been an on-again, off-again self-employed person and employed, and that doesn't mean to say he can't keep a job.
I can't keep a job.
It's not true. But sometimes he's been both at the same time. There was a long period of self-employment for him, but he was also employed by someone during that time in a way, but it was still doing what he was doing when he was self-employed, which is to say personal training.
Yes.
You got to be closer.
I got to be closer still?
Yeah, be closer
still. If you give me a boom stand, I would be much better.
We don't have much money yet.
Just
when this podcast takes off, I can buy a second boom stand. So subscribe and tell your friends. So today's topic is the idea of finding identity in work. And it's not necessarily a tip because you're going to do it anyway. But it's important to, well, I guess the first question is, why is it important to try to not find your identity in the work that you are doing? Why do we even care? What do you think?
Well, I think it's obviously at some point you are going to find your identity in that, because it's probably what you spend not most of your time, but a large majority of your time on. So of course you're going to find some identity in it. But I know at least I've struggled with, I'm very one-track minded, so I have a tendency to get focused in on something, put all my energy into that, get bored with it, and move on to something else. And so with my employment, obviously, my employment history has kind of reflected that, but also just in my regular life and other things I like to do. But I think it's important not to invest all your energy in that, because life is more than just one thing. Even if it's a good thing, you still need to have other relationships and other people just to be balanced.
Well, and I think it's hard, again, and I do want to say, he hasn't bounced around employment-wise because he's getting fired or anything. But that's the idea, is you've got such a sense of, it's entrepreneurialism? I don't know. You just like to do different things.
I like to do different things.
But it is hard when I don't want to say the word enjoy, or when you're passionate about what you're doing, because that's such a hot word that I don't think really means much. But when it is only you making something happen, it's very hard to not be like, this is what I do. You know, in your case, when you were a personal trainer, it was, I am the person that shows up to tell these people
it's all me. If I lose clients or get more clients, my income directly reflects that. You know, I'm directly responsible for literally every aspect of my success, where if you work for a big company or something, then all of a sudden, you know, you can, at certain levels, you're responsible for losing and gaining clients, but your income or your perceived success of yourself might not directly reflect that, at least at first. Whereas with me, it was like, well, if a trainee quits, immediately the next day it affects my income, which then, like it or not, it affects how you feel about yourself and that kind of thing, which is another issue. But
Well, it was very interesting actually during that time period because I was other employed by a company, as it were. And I remember when those times would happen, and it was a very, like, I didn't understand at the time. Now I fully understand. And in fact, one of the earliest conversations we had when I was wanting to go rogue and kind of build this thing, I told you I was scared, and you were like, well, yeah. And I think,
get over it.
I think what you specifically said was like, why do you think I was at Shelby Park, which is around where we lived at the time? Why do you think I would spend 2 hours at Shelby Park, like trying not to throw up?
Yeah. Especially at first. It's like, wow, it's a Wednesday. I worked half an hour today. Great.
But that wasn't something that you told me at the time.
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember you ever expressing to me. No, you did obviously express to me that you didn't have a lot of work, but you didn't say things like, well, yeah, I, threw up 5 times today.
Well, I didn't ever throw up 5 times, but yes.
But that's like a legit thing. There was a friend of mine who had a coffee friend with somebody who wanted to also have her own business. And the girl said something to the effect of like, you don't understand. I had a breakdown and almost threw up in the Starbucks bathroom. And it's like, yeah, that's happened a few times.
Oh, gosh.
Well, because we put so much into it, and for me, it becomes a reflection of who I am.
Yeah.
If what I'm doing isn't succeeding. Another conversation we had at one point was about, you asked me if I were laid up in the hospital tomorrow, would I still see worth in myself if I couldn't produce anything? And I honestly, I was like, no, I don't think I would.
Yeah.
And that's not okay. But culture as a whole, we have kind of, over all these, hundreds of years, we've evolved. But
the last couple hundred years we've been evolving.
Yeah, just a couple hundred years. But what is the first question we're asked when a social event? Social event has nothing to do with work. What's the first question we ask people?
Hey, what do you do?
Right. And so we have kind of conditioned ourselves as a culture to find out what people do so that we know who they are. And, we can't like erase history or anything, but I don't know. Sometimes I wonder, what can we ask people, or what are the ways that we can find out who people are without asking them what do they do, especially when you live in a town like Nashville where a lot of people don't find their identity in their work because it's just a day job so that they can do their creative work at night.
And it'll take people off guard too, because if you ask someone, what do you like to do? What are you passionate about? It's like,
it stops
they might not
conversation.
even, they have to think about it, or they don't even know, or, they might have an answer, but.
So what were ways in those times where you were finding identity in your work, what were ways that you tried to separate from that? Did you find that anything was effective, or did you?
Kind of, sort of, because it was also one of my main hobbies is also working out. And so it was like, okay, so my hobby is also my work. I do my hobby at my work. So it was kind of hard to separate that, but it's a different mentality. So that, take 2 hours to lift in the middle of the day. Sweet.
Our dog Mildred is playing with her new fox toy.
So taking that was good, kind of turn off my work brain kind of, and not think about stuff like that. Taking a break at lunch and going home was real important. If I could, I always tried to go home just to kind of get out of that environment, because I would literally be in the gym otherwise from 5 a.m. till 6 or 8 p.m. every single day, and then Saturday mornings, and it's just plus whatever time I wanted to spend just for me. So it was a lot. So physically disconnecting from the space was important too. But honestly, I don't know if I really did a good job of keeping everything separate out.
Does anybody? And sometimes I actually wonder, is it a healthy thing if you are able to separate? Because then at that point, are you creating 2 different worlds? And is that genuine? I think about it in my work, I kind of have to be genuine and authentic with people. And if I'm able to be that and then separate, then am I really truly infused in my work? And is it going well?
Yeah. Well, I think people respect too if you draw a clear line and you say, okay, well, I'm available from X time to X time, and this is when I'm going to work on this, which I think you do a lot of. And then, outside that time, I'm doing something else, or I'm having time with my family or whatever, and not just always being on your phone and on your email. I think that's real important. And I think people respect that if you draw that line.
The topic of scheduling is very interesting as it relates to your personal training, because it is entirely scheduling. I have some clients that are scheduled, but then I have some clients where it's like, okay, I know generally when I'm going to be working on their things, or it's like whenever an email comes in, if it's a hot email, I have to answer it. Did you find any tips for doing that schedule blocking? Did you start the week saying, or, start a period of time, maybe it's a quarter, saying I'm going to be spending this time with my family, I'm going to be spending this time?
Not really. It was with training, it's extremely schedule dependent because, literally that's all it is. You have blocks of time, and then each person gets a certain block of time, and that's kind of how it is. But I would try to multitask. Like if I was in the gym and say I had a, half-hour break, I would try to get all my other stuff done during that half hour, which is just logical, common sense. But just try not to let stuff bleed over so that when I did get home, I could actually be home and I hadn't just procrastinated or, whatever all day, and all of a sudden I forgot about some other aspect of something I had to do. And
you actually did a really good job of that, because thinking back, I don't remember, you weren't home a lot, but when you were home, you were home.
Yeah.
Well, and the nature of that business.
Yeah.
People want to work out before work and after work.
Yeah.
And then people who either don't work or who are able to step away for work want to work out during the day. So you were there from 5 in the morning until sometimes you didn't get home till 8 or 8:30 at night. And you'd have blocks of time during the day, I know. But
it wasn't 14 hours straight, but it was still, you're still there and you're still in that mentality, and you can't shut it off until you're, for me at least, physically disconnected from work.
Mm-hmm. Another topic we should touch on at some point is the difference between introversion and extroversion in our work, because you are introverted and I am pretty extroverted, and that would be an interesting topic to touch on at some point. Yeah.
Some people need different levels of boundaries than others.
And especially in personal training, if you're an introvert and you're having one-on-one conversation with people every day, all day, small talk, not even, and the same conversation over and over. Right. Interesting. Okay, well, this is next time on Just a Tip with Mike Thompson. Thank you for joining us. If you tuned in, we're going to make this audio available on the podcast, the Rogue Ones podcast. Find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher. And are there any other podcasting apps it should be on? What do you listen to yours on?
That's it.
That's it? All those things?
Literally one of those things.
Literally one of those things. Yeah. Well, if there's another app we should be on, just hit me up. Let me know. I don't know. Should we open this up for questions? We got 6 people watching. Does anybody have a question about finding identity in your work? Whilst I drink from my Rogue mug here, which there's one left on the Rogue Marketplace. If you go to wearetherogueones.com. We
have a bunch of shirts she needs to get rid of, too.
Yeah, please. There are a lot of shirts up there. If you're interested in a shirt, it says I'm a Rogue. You can go to Rogue Ones Podcast for that also. I'll even give you a discount if you use the term HOPE, H-O-P-E, because rebellions are built on hope. It's from the movie Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Jen Erso says, rebellions are built on hope. So HOPE, if you use code HOPE at the Rogue Marketplace, you will get 20% off of your order, which is kind of a lot. Okay, well, thanks everybody for tuning in. We're going to hop off and nap and whatever one does on a Saturday. Thanks for joining us for Just a Tip with Mike. And come back next time and subscribe to the Rogue Ones podcast on all the podcasting places. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on the Rogue Ones podcast.